Yes, oh yes, it's basketball season again. I love college basketball, I love college football, and what a coincidence, I have Texas to go with both of them. Coming into last night, Texas opened up the season against Boston University. I don't know if any of you knew that, and if you didn't, I'll just sort of give you a rundown on what happened. Texas owned. Obviously, you hope they do against Boston University. They won 82-46. The defense played great. I watched the game here on Longhorn Network. Um, the defense played a fantastic game, and it was surprising to me because it's such a young team and a team full of guys that you never really heard of out of high school. But they were saying Jonathan Holmes. Here's a guy who averaged 26 points in high school. Um, I forget the other guy's first name, so I'll move to someone else. Julian Lewis, the guy who averaged 20-something points in high school, and Sheldon. That was it. Sheldon McClellan, freshman who averaged 20-something points in high school. So you've got all these guys who are not highly touted prospects coming out of high school, but for whatever reason they, or for whatever reason they weren't highly touted, but they were actually, were stars in high school for their team. So we got 6 freshmen on the team: Julian Lewis, Sheldon McClellan, Jalen Bond, Jonathan Holmes, Mayak Kabongo, Sterling Gibbs. Those are the 6 freshmen. And then, of course, it's all 6 of them played. Got time last night, which was the interesting thing, and a lot of minutes. So we're gonna have rough patches this year, that's for sure, because um, we have 6 freshmen that are very, very key contributors, but none of them seem to have egos whatsoever. Much like last year with Tristan Thompson and Corey Joseph, they didn't have egos at all. This group of freshmen is not that talented. As talented as last year's or even the year before, but Kabongo seems very headsy. He didn't do anything spectacular, but he didn't mess up. He did a good job leading the team. He made some very unselfish plays. I didn't see him make any selfish plays. Um, and then of course Jacobin Brown leading them all. To go with Alexi One-Mini, who's a senior, and the senior Clint Chapman. Um, One-Mini did a good job because he averaged a foul, or I think they said like a foul, 2 fouls every 5 minutes last year or something like that. And he only had 2 fouls all game last night, and he started, and he played the majority of the game because he was a starter. We don't have a whole lot of big guys this year. Bond is a big guy. He's 6'7", and then Jonathan Holmes is 6'7" as well. But they're not. We didn't really get to see a whole lot of Bond last night, so I don't want to make a bunch of predictions about him. Holmes looked like a solid guy. He got some nice rebounds. Knocked down a 3 where he looked like a guard on the 3 coming off the screen, and got the pass and just knocked it down. It was surprising. We saw Clint Chapman take a 3 last night too. One-Mini has the ability to extend out and hit the mid-range jumper. I don't know if he's got a 3 in his arsenal, the 3 ball in his arsenal, but he does have a mid-range jumper. But let's get to Jacobin Brown. He had 28 points last night, 8 assists. That's what we're looking for from him. That's what we need. He is a very unique player, very hard to defend because he can score in so many ways. Really, he's a slightly less athletic, shorter version of Jordan Hamilton. But he's a junior, so he's got the experience and maturity that we never quite got to with Hamilton. Hamilton matured. I cannot speak right now. Matured a lot last year, from his freshman year to his sophomore year. But he's still a sophomore. He's still gonna have some issues that you wouldn't have as an upperclassman. Well, Jerome Brown is a guy who was on a rough Texas team as a freshman that collapsed after starting 17-0, barely made the tournament, and then lost in the first round. And then last year we saw him really coming along near the end of the year. When we played Kansas, he scored 23 points, had a great game against them. And in the tournament when we were struggling against Oakland, he did a good job, and he was getting to the free throw line. And of course, a huge game against Arizona in the third round technically, since they switched the tournament up. His huge game against them, where he had 23 points as well, got to the line a bunch, and then of course the questionable call slash questionable call slash questionable call into that game last year. I'm talking about the 5 seconds, which wasn't quite 5 seconds, and then, the foul and 3-point play, which could have been called a charge, and then the no foul on the other one when Brown and Gary Johnson both looked like they might have gotten fouled. But the reason I say I was so questionable about this year's Longhorn team, even though you've got Brown coming back from one mini and Chapman and highly touted freshman Maya Kabongo coming in, is because we lost all 5 starters. Tristan Thompson, Corey Joseph, Gary Johnson, Doge Balbe, and I don't know who else started last year. Jordan Hamilton. And then we lost off the bench Jay Lucas, who was a good guy to come in and sub, good 3-point shooter, controlled the game, didn't really do anything stupid. Matt Hill, a great defender and a great rebounder. How are we supposed to bounce back from that? I mean, there's not really a whole lot you can do. Jeff Van de Gundy was calling the game, and he was agreeing with me. I guess I was agreeing with him more likely. He's an expert. But we're just so impressed with how Texas' young defense. I mean, we know defense is a major call sign for Mac Brown. He makes a living off of it. He's had so many years in a row where he's in the top of the NCAA. Not the best, but he's one of the top teams in the NCAA as far as defensive field goal percentage goes. Last night was no different. We held Boston, a very good 3-point shooting team, to 30% from the floor on the game. Team who made the NCAA tournament last year. So this is not necessarily, it's not a great win. It's not like a win against Kansas or against North Carolina or against Michigan State or Duke or Kentucky or any of those, premier programs. But it is not a win to be taken lightly either. Realize that this is a good quality win. And at the end of the year, right now it doesn't look like a whole lot. Okay, so you killed Boston. But at the end of the year, Boston is a team, or at the end of the day, Boston is a team who returned 4 starters off last year's tournament team. And they're a team who likely will get back to the tournament again. I mean, I don't know. You can't say a lot about it, but likely they will get back to the tournament again because they were returning a number of starters off last year's tournament team. They actually gave Kansas a good run in the first half as a 16th seed last season. But our defense is very far along for having so many young guys. Things weren't going swimmingly for us in the first half last night, but we kept our heads up, and Julian Lewis started knocking some shots down. McClellan hit some shots, of course. Brown hitting shots all night, tying his career high at 28. I think McClellan and Lewis will be big factors for us this year. Lewis was in foul trouble in the first half, but still came through with 18 points for us. Kabongo will be a consistent guy all year. But let's talk about Jacobin Brown for a second. Jacobin Brown didn't take. I think I saw him take 1, maybe 2 shots last night where I was thinking, okay, come on, you could have come up with something better than that. But he had 28 points, and he is a very hard guy to defend. Earlier, I compared him to Hamilton, and I say that because last night we saw him. We saw him make 2 very nice plays in the post offensively, where he actually posted the guy up and hit a shot on him. And one was an and one play, and the guy he's 6'2" on a good day. He's making plays in the post. That's very, very good. He's a strong guy. He's 200 pounds at 6'2", which is, a little over what you would normally expect a guy at 6'2" to weigh. You expect him to weigh, normally about 180 to 190. He's up there at the 200 range. And he's got a lot of muscle on him. He makes a lot of strong moves and drives. And he doesn't have a bunch of speed. He doesn't have a ton of athleticism. But he's smart about where he goes, and he's very unique. It's hard to defend him because of the way he comes off curls. He changes his pace when he's driving towards the basket. And in a way, I feel bad saying this, but he's kind of awkward. And that makes him harder. Dust particle, sorry. And that makes him hard to defend because you're not sure what he's going to do. He really utilizes his mid-range jump shot, and he shoots from more awkward angles than other guys because he really does a good job of utilizing the glass as well. And he's one of the few guys that you see utilize that floater as well. He's very good at using that floater in the lane over bigger defenders, so he doesn't get scared down there either. And last night we saw him do a very good job passing the ball. If he had just scored 28 points, he would have had a good game. But he had a great game because he had 8 assists and made a lot of unselfish plays. And he wasn't even in a point guard. He was running shooting guard for us. You know how Mac Brown likes to start basically 2 point guards. I always have liked that because it gives you a different dimension. You lack some size, but you have quickness, and it gives you a dimension of having kind of 2 playmakers out on the floor. Like last year starting Joseph and Balbe. I like seeing that. But anyway, we look pretty good. We're going to play some tough games this year. I don't really see the Big 12 being an extremely tough conference this year, so I think we have a shot at taking it. But those freshmen will have to step up because there will be games where people decide, you know what, we're going to design our whole defensive scheme around stopping Jacobin Brown and see if all these freshmen of Jonathan Holmes, Sheldon McClellan, I think that was his name, Jalen Bond, Julian Lewis, see if Mayak Kabongo, see if they can beat us. So we're not going to get a whole lot of offensive production in the paint from our bigs anyway. It looks like we have some guys who can slash and penetrate, Kabongo being one of them, and of course Brown. And McClellan looked like a very athletic player. So did Bond. And Lewis, we only really saw him, put up threes and stuff, but he strikes me as the kind of guy who can, take flight too. So it helps we have some athleticism, even though we don't have necessarily a ton of size or sorry, that was someone signing in on my messenger. And even though we don't have a ton of size or experience, we do at least have athleticism, so that'll help us out. Hook'em Horns, we look like a good team this year. I'll keep, obviously, like last year, I'm not going to update for every game, but I will give updates every now and then. It's basketball season, people. Favorite time of the year right now because you're really into the basketball. And it's, it's awesome because it's just starting out and you haven't hit any point in the schedule where, it's kind of redundant where, you're just into it. You're excited about it. And, of course, with the college football season coming to an end, we're actually pretty good this year in football. So it's not depressing like it was last year. So it's just double amazing because you get a chance to have both at the same time. I love it. Hook'em Horns. See you guys later.